Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Room News. We're not doing a silly intro of a lady crashing her driver's ed car today, because I feel like, given today's subject matter, that would be in bad taste. Today, we are talking about the incident where a commercial driver driving a full-size semi-truck attempted to make a U-turn on a freeway and subsequently took the lives of other people due to his actions. And the reason why I am covering this, well, is quite simple. I am a professional driver, okay? Let me just lay down my credentials here for you, because I am basically going to be your expert witness on this topic. I've been driving since 2021. I think I started in September of 2021. And I have a fully unrestricted Class A license, otherwise known as a CDL, a commercial driver's license. The Class A part basically means I am certified in driving a tractor with a separate trailer. I am certified when it comes to air brake systems, the whole 9 yards when it comes to normal semi-trucks. I am also certified with hazmat, and I also am certified when it comes to tankers. So that's like fuel, grains, liquids, things that would be in like a cylinder type tanker or a high pressurized type container. Combined together, that means I have an X endorsement on my license. I've been driving for a long time, and I take safety very, very seriously. I am almost a cliche when it comes to how seriously I take safety when it comes to driving. And I know for a lot of you, you might be a little surprised, because I like sports cars. I like fast cars. I'm also a BMW driver, and so you'd think I'd be allergic to using turn signals and giving people the space to drive normally without tailgating them. But I take safety very seriously, and what this driver did, it should be impossible for someone like that, a monster, to be driving an 80,000 pound vehicle. I don't know where to start. So, and my frustration with this situation comes with two motivations are driving me to make this video, to add my voice to the noise. First is, it is very clear that this so-called professional driver circumvented the system that allows you to earn the right to drive a 70-foot, 80,000 pound vehicle. And I know this for a few reasons, but before I say my reasons, I need to preface this video. This is not a race issue. It is very easy for you to look at the symptoms of a much larger problem and think this is a race issue. If you go on Reddit, on r/truckers, there is going to be people complaining about people from other countries doing all kinds of stuff. I'll talk more about that later, but that's not appropriate for this conversation. Because even if you were to get rid of all foreign truckers, they're still going to be bad drivers. Anyone with a functional frontal lobe, someone that isn't a lobotomy patient, understands that. But the reasons why I know this person circumvented the process that you're supposed to follow in order to get a CDL is, for one, he's not a legal citizen of the country. All right, that's already a problem. He has no business driving an 80,000 pound vehicle. And even if he did, he failed the English proficiency test, which has been a requirement for commercial drivers in this country for a very long time. That is not a new rule. It, for whatever reason, has not been enforced. And I know a lot of people are saying you need to be able to read road signs. It's more than that. You have to be able to communicate to emergency responders with what's going on if an accident happens. You need to be able to communicate with people you are delivering to. You need to be able to read your own delivery documents. This driver was not a legal citizen. He got his CDL in California, which is the least surprising part of this story. And I think he bought his CDL. I don't think he studied or trained or did anything like that. And I'll tell you why I think that. This is the case for pretty much everywhere now, where it's fairly standardized. Part of the test to get your full CDL license is you have to basically spend 45 minutes to an hour physically and verbally describing how you would inspect the entire semi-truck. You have to talk and point at all the components. And we're not just talking about lights. Obviously, we're talking about lights. You have to talk about headlights, marker lights, turn signals, suspension components, steering components, fluids, hoses, fans, frames, welds. Need I go on? Tires, obviously, brakes. And you also have to show the mechanisms of physically testing these components and verbally describing what's happening. If this person can't pass an English proficiency test, I'm willing to bet if this guy took the same CDL inspection test that I took, he would fail. Because if you even use the wrong language, the wrong terminology, or say something out of order, you instantly fail. So I find it frustrating that even today, there are still people out there being given these licenses and making things so much worse for us. All the people who do things the right way. All I know is this is going to result in even more regulations in the trucking industry, because there is a saying, for those of you who already are in the industry, you know, every DOT or FMCSA or NHTSA regulation that we have when it comes to truck driving is written in blood. Pretty much all of it is reactionary. Like, for instance, there was an accident in like the 60s where I think a woman, maybe she was famous, she ended up rear-ending the trailer of a semi-truck, and there was no bumper. And so what happened was very similar to this accident where this car basically hit the side of this trailer and went straight under it. The woman got decapitated by hitting the back of this trailer. And since then, all trailers have what's called a Mansfield bar, named after the woman that died. I would not be surprised if regulations started to get rolled out where side skirt style bumpers had to start being added to trailers because nitwits like this are driving. I'm sure there's going to be other regulations too, because like I said, all regulations are written in blood. Same with hours of service. You can only be on duty for a certain amount of time after you've clocked in at the start of the day. You can only have an allotted amount of driving time within those 14 hours. And you have to have certain breaks. And if you violate any of that, you're basically committing a federal crime. There's a lot going on with it. That's what I find so frustrating, is that clearly the system was circumvented. Clearly, there is apparatus that is not being properly investigated, audited, and taken down to prevent stuff like this from happening. Getting rid of all the foreign truck drivers won't solve this. People are still going to buy their CDLs, and there's going to be unqualified people all over the place. The other thing, number two, the reason why this is so important to me. I know this is a little all over the place. I'm sorry. I have ADD, and I don't have a script today. The second reason why is because I was in an accident with my semi-truck in April of last year. I had been working several 14-hour days, 70-hour weeks, back to back. I was just a few months before the accident in April, rescuing people out of wrecked semi-trucks in a blizzard in Nebraska because our account manager decided to send people out for some reason. I was stretched thin. I was not healthy. I was living off way too much caffeine, and eventually it all caught up to me, and I had a medical emergency while I was driving, and I could tell something was wrong, so I tried to slow my truck down, but I blacked out. I had a syncope event, and the truck went into the center kind of median grassy area. No other vehicles were involved. I came to perfectly fine, uninjured, and I was very fortunate because I almost hit a concrete pillar supporting an overpass, and if I'd hit that, I probably wouldn't be here. The main cause, as far as I know, is that I was overworked and I was drinking way too much caffeine, and I was stressed out all the time. That's what over the road can do to you. The accident, though, was not the problem. The process I had to do to get all my driving privileges back after that was insane, because basically what happened is all of my Class A and all of my normal passenger car driving privileges got revoked. I couldn't drive anything. I pretty much was out of a job. And the only way to even get my normal car driving privileges back, I had to wear heart monitors, get my brain tested. I had to see a cardiologist, a neurologist. I had to see all of these doctors, do all kinds of tests while I had no way to drive, no income, and I had to pay for pretty much everything out of pocket, because I also had to then pay for my own health insurance too, my own medical insurance. So I was making huge payments. I still had all my bills. I had everything still going on. Life doesn't stop when the government says, well, prove you're okay. I did all these tests. It took the better part of half a year, and I got my normal driving privileges back. And I had been working as a car salesman with no benefits, and that wasn't great, but it was almost just barely enough to get by. Just barely. And then they tell me, if you want your CDL back, you have to go back to trucking school. I didn't even get my truck driving. Sorry, that's my neighbor with their helicopter. I had to go back to truck driving school. Even after all the doctors signed off on me saying, he's fine. It was a fluke. He was overworked. We basically just told him, don't drink anywhere near that much caffeine ever again, and make sure you're sleeping. Fine. Totally reasonable. Makes perfect sense. And no matter what I did, no matter how much I tried to make my case to the people in charge of commercial driver's licenses in Illinois, this is the state I was in, they said no exceptions to, well, actually, no exceptions isn't the right way to put it. There is no language for the states of Illinois or guidelines that help them determine what is the appropriate action for my situation. It was just based on how they felt. It was arbitrarian. They could have let me keep my CDL, but they decided not to. They were treating me like I was a DUI drunk driver scumbag when I had a medical emergency, a one-time medical emergency that has not happened since then. Well, there wasn't a whole lot I could do. So I got my CDL back. And by this point, I had been without my normal income for like 6 months, at least. I was in so much debt to pay for all of these medical things and make all the payments on my health medical insurance. Tens of thousands of dollars. Ultimately, I had to upheave my family, my life, and sell my house. Luckily, we bought our house in like 2019, 2020 or something like that. I can't remember. And even though we hadn't paid the house off, fortunately, we made some money on the house, and I could put a good chunk of that money into the debt I have. The debt is not gone, by the way. For some of you have noticed that there is a GoFundMe in my description for the remaining $17,000 of debt that I have from all the medical crap that was just mainly superfluous. Because even after I got my CDL back and I was ready to start driving again, the state of Illinois told me, just so you know, we will occasionally, whenever we feel like it, and I'm quoting verbatim, when we decide it is appropriate, if we feel it is appropriate, we will order you to go to a doctor to be checked on, just to make sure everything's okay. That's wholly unnecessary. I spent half a year wasting my time and all of my money. I had no savings left after all this. And you still want to harass me after the doctors have told you I'm fine? And I did the driver's test. I did the inspection demonstration test. I did everything. I did my little maneuvers and all that sort of stuff to show that I still knew how to park a 50-foot trailer. And you still want to bother me? Yeah, so that's why I sold my house to cover the debt and to get away from Illinois. I will never go back. I will never forgive the state of Illinois for that. I don't care how many family members are out there, and I don't care how many friends I have out there. I will never go back because they will harass me. So now I'm in Washington, where me and my family are living with my parents in their house, which they have graciously allowed us to do, thank God. And I know some of you know that I like cars, and I have a BMW M3, and if you're wondering why I haven't sold that, it's tied up in a contract, and that's why the car is being built. It's being built for a specific purpose. It's a business bit of property at this point. I can't really get rid of it. I would be breaking a lot of people's trust at that point, unfortunately. And for my wife's car, well, we would not have a reliable vehicle. And plus, we can't sell it anyways because we're upside down on it. And the car I drive every day is a Lexus that actually belongs to my mom. So I'm very fortunate that I have the support system I have, but I have no emergency fund. So if something else happens, I'm basically screwed. The reason why I told you that story is that because of how I was treated for having a medical emergency that did not even get anyone hurt and was a one-time fluke and the result of being overworked, I was treated like a DUI offender. This guy was not even in the country properly, clearly circumvented the system for getting his CDL, and then got people killed. I want this guy, were I in power, again, this is not a race thing, I want the driver imprisoned and then deported after his sentence is served, assuming he's not in prison forever. The other thing, I know the president is taking the licenses away from the White Hawk company he worked for, White Hawk Transport or whatever. That's not enough. His employers need to be charged with something. And someone needs to follow the paper trail to whoever gave this fool a CDL. Because like I said, if this guy took the same tests that I did, he would fail. I was a trainer for truck drivers, okay? I vetted people to make sure they wouldn't be, for one, a liability for the company I worked for, because I didn't want us to lose the account we had. But I also I don't want to be sharing the road with monsters. So I'll give you a couple examples. The first one was, we had a guy apparently with 10 to 15 years of Class A driving experience. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And my account runners are going, yeah, can you go and do a little bit of maneuver training with him? And I'm like, how could a guy with 15 years experience need maneuver training from someone who's been driving for 2 years? That doesn't add up. Well, it turns out the guy had been driving doubles for 15 years and never had backed a trailer in his life. I don't even know how that's possible. The guy could not back a trailer. I did not want to be the one to sign off on him because he couldn't back the trailer in a straight line, let alone do a 90 degree or a 65 or a 45 or whatever. Couldn't do any of it. So I said, no, do not put this guy on the road. He is going to either hit the building of one of our customers, or he's going to go to a truck stop and smoke a dude's truck just trying to park. The other example that I have is, because the parking and the backing and all those maneuvers is what you actually get paid for as a truck driver. The easy part is driving down the interstate. As long as you're managing your sleep, that is the easy part. Going down the interstate. That takes zero skill. So when you run into the second example, a guy that either is afraid of going the speed limit or can't stay in his lane or is riding everyone's bumpers, that becomes a situation of, I'm not going to approve this guy. He is legitimately dangerous, even though he's claiming he has commercial driving experience. And I was aware, and my company knew that I was aware, that if after I refused to sign off on a driver that I just deemed completely dangerous and allowed him to drive, I would report that driver to the DOT. You can do that, and they will do a follow-up investigation. Because if there's one thing I've learned as a truck driver, if the rules are enforced, they are enforced 110% intensity. When it comes to truck drivers, You have to hold yourselves and the other drivers around you to the highest possible standard. I do that with myself, I do that with my coworkers, and I hold other truck drivers around me that I just see out in the wild to that standard too. If they're doing sketchy stuff, you're getting reported. And it sickens me the way the guy reacted to the car hitting his trailer and killing 3 people. He was expressionless. It did not yield a reaction. I have had people, while I'm minding my own business, hit my truck, the trailer specifically, on 2 separate occasions. The first was in Wichita. I was making a left turn at an intersection at no more than 1 mile an hour because it was a tight turn. You had to take it super wide and basically get right up on top of the curb to get to the ramp that takes you onto the freeway. And it was a 2-lane turn. And as a truck driver with more than 10 brain cells, I knew I had to be in the outermost lane so I could take it as wide as possible without going into the travel path of other cars, obviously. But unfortunately, the inner lane of this intersection had construction in it, and so there were cones forcing the cars in the inner lane to take the turn even wider. And there's a thing that happens when vehicles turn that is called off-tracking, where when you start to turn, your front wheels take a different path than your back wheels. And when you're driving a combination vehicle with a 53-foot trailer, the effect of off-tracking is super pronounced. The wheels of the trailer are going to take a much shorter path because of all the pivot points. And what will happen is it causes the trailer to travel into the travel path of another car if they're taking the turn too wide. And because of the cones in the inner lane, my trailer was going into the path of these cars. And because everyone thinks they're Vin Diesel, several cars, managed to make it. They flew through the gap between me and the cones to make the left turn. Like 3 cars made it through. And I'm still, going 1 mile an hour. I'm taking the turn as wide as possible to give people as much space as possible. I'm up on the curb, which my tires were not enjoying. And I hear this crunch. I don't even feel it. And I stop, slam on my brakes, and I see this old man in what looked like a Ford Focus sedan had driven under my trailer trying to squeeze through. So I back up, I let him get out. He pulls his car out. I then pull onto the side of the road, not on the interstate, obviously. Turn on my hazards. I go to get my high visibility jacket, and as I'm waiting for traffic to go by so I can get out and make sure he's okay, he's driving by in his crumpled car with his phone out, just taking pictures of the truck. Well, if you leave the scene, that's not going to do you any good. And I made a statement to my company just to be safe, but police never investigated. Nothing ever happened. I don't think the guy had insurance, or the guy was just an idiot or something. I'm not sure. But then on a second occasion in Hazelwood, Missouri, basically St. Louis, Missouri, I was on 270, one of the worst roads to drive on in America. We had just come out of construction. I was going 10 under the speed limit. I was in the middle lane. I hadn't gotten over yet because of the construction, because all the lanes were all messed up. And I'm checking my mirrors, because as a truck driver, you check your mirrors like every 2 to 3 seconds. You're going, look ahead, check left, ahead, check right mirror, check your fender mirrors so that you're perfectly centered in the lane. Whatever it is that you have to check, you're checking constantly. I like checking my mirrors. And so what happens is when I go to check my left mirror, I see an accident before it happens. I just see this green jelly bean Kia Soul come around from behind my trailer. And I don't know what possesses them to do this. I see the driver yank the steering wheel, and she just loses traction on all 4 tires. All 4 tires. And what happens is basically almost perpendicular to the wheels of my trailer, She slams into the tires, the sidewalls of my trailer tires, also known as the tandems, and bounces off the trailer, and I can feel it. That's what I find so haunting about this U-turn incident, is that he definitely felt that car hit his trailer. She hits my trailer, bounces off, hits the concrete divider in the center, and hits that twice, even harder. And my response is, okay, I need to get over to the left, turn on my hazards, stop the truck, make sure all the parking brakes are set, and take a moment, call the authorities first, then let my company know and tell them I'm about to get out and go and check on the other driver, because I have to. I have to secure the scene somewhat and make sure everyone involved is okay. I put out the little hazard triangles and all that sort of stuff. I prepare myself because I don't know what I'm about to see. And I approach the Kia Soul. The motor is practically almost sitting on the ground. One of the headlights is gone. There are holes in some of the windows. One of the wheels has vanished into the ether. I don't know where it's gone. The car is completely destroyed. And the driver, she doesn't know where she is. At first she goes, "Is the car okay?" And I go, "Not in any sense of the word that I know it by. What about you? How are you feeling?" Because she's slurring speech. She's bleeding out of her head, her eye, her mouth. Because you can see pretty clearly in the mirror when I see her hit the concrete barrier the first time. I could see her head slam into the side of, the interior of her car. She was probably concussed. And then when the authorities arrive, she starts going, the alignment of my car, the tires are bald and this and that. Thankfully for me, she started telling on herself, so I barely even had to make a statement. So it never got held against me and my company never took issue with it. But even though it wasn't my fault, because I have a heart, a soul, and a functional frontal lobe, I'm still going to make sure this person's okay. They might have been acting really stupid, like how most people on 270 are. It's still a human being. I still have to check on them. They weren't putting me in danger. They put themselves in danger. And I'm not at the point yet where I'm just not going to go and check on them. Or even, just not be concerned. Because I'm a professional and I'm a human being. So all of this is just deeply upsetting. But I am really, really happy that everyone is talking about it and it is getting attention. I am hoping that the end result will is regulations that somehow, because they're always written in blood, that makes things like this less likely to happen. I want the schools that basically sell CDLs to people and barely test people. Because I don't know how it works in California, but in Illinois, you have the school that trains you, and then someone from the state government comes to test you. If that's how it works in California, that California DMV employee needs to be imprisoned. Because as a trainer, if someone is a danger, it is very obvious. Because they will have terrible driving habits. You cannot pretend to be good at driving a truck if you are a bad truck driver. You can't fake it. You can either be good at it or you're a hazard. I want to see people sent to jail. There needs to be accountability that prevents this from happening again. Now, I know there's conspiracies about corrupt schools and all that, where basically the alleged theory is that the same people who are driving these trucks with no skills are the same group of people that are running the schools. I don't know anything about that. That's just r/truckers. But the other thing is that I am really happy to see people like Asmon and other creators covering this as well. Not just mainstream media, but people who aren't truck drivers, people who don't think about this industry every day, are now talking about it and are seeing that this has been a problem for a very long time. and it needs to be addressed. And I don't know if Asmongold will see this part of the video or not, or any of this video, whether he reacts to it or not. If you do see this, Asmongold, I really appreciate you covering this, and I am thoroughly impressed by the stance you take on this, because I guess it is really easy for most people to make it a race issue when it's not. And obviously, you recognize that. Even if you get rid of all foreign drivers, that doesn't solve the problem. That's not even the problem. There are people from all over the world driving in the US and are perfectly safe. That's not the issue. The issue is that it is really easy for people to circumvent the system if they're willing to take the risk. So I want to just watch a little bit of Asmon's coverage of this now that we've shared my thoughts. I want to now hear a few of the things that he's said. I've watched his video already and make a few points based on the things that is covered in his video as well. And again, huge respect and appreciation as a truck driver who takes safety very seriously when you're driving 80,000 pound vehicles. People need to be held to a higher standard than this. This is because I like my job. I know one of the number one things people do as a truck driver is complain about being a truck driver. The same way the number one thing to do in Illinois is leave, as I've demonstrated. I really like being a truck driver. I don't want people like this to be a part of this industry, because this is what gives ammunition to say, maybe we need autonomous trucks. No, that's a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. Because if an autonomous truck isn't maintained properly, that is an even bigger hazard. I do not want a truck hauling ethanol to not be properly maintained and then decide that rival truck coming in the opposite direction, I take issue with their existence, and then cause a cataclysmic, like a horrible wreck, like that one AI that got nervous and panicked and deleted an entire company for some reason. I will never support autonomous trucks as a concept, because that is a huge safety hazard. Anyways, I've ranted enough. Let's go over this.
Which was insane.
Where is my camera at? Okay. 1080p 60 premium. Sure. I don't know what that means.
The Trump administration now investigating a deadly Florida crash allegedly caused by an illegal migrant truck driver.
They hit the car. The car hit the trailer so hard it moved the trailer.
Florida crash allegedly caused by an illegal.
That's terrifying. That's horrible.
The suspect couldn't read English or understand road signs despite getting a commercial driver's license from 2 sanctuary states.
Want to guess which one? Well, actually, no, I already told you. You can guess which one, though.
So he got a work authorization denied by Trump, and then he received work papers under Biden administration. How does this keep happening?
Now, I didn't know about that. I forgot about that. I must have not heard that when I was listening to the video. Jesus.
Whenever one of these things happens, like this driver's f***ed his life up, right? I mean, he's probably going to go to jail forever, and that's going to be the end of him. And that's a good thing.
Reminds me of that kid in Colorado where I guess his engine brake didn't work, and then he tried to use his brakes going down a mountain, and then he killed a whole bunch of people. And then for some reason, all the truck drivers in the industry were like, you need to reduce his sentence or we're not bringing goods to Colorado. Like, the kid killed people. That's not a hill to die on. I don't know why it's different this time around. Actually, if you look at r/truckers, I can probably guess.
So this driver is driving down in Florida.
Oh my God. You see, before the Mansfield bar, that's what would happen if you hit the back of a trailer. Jesus, man. I will say, as a truck driver, if you're making U-turns on a road in a commercial vehicle, you're a special kind of stupid that Asmongold would accurately describe you as. The closest thing I've ever gotten to doing a U-turn in a semi-truck is I go, oh, I missed my exit at that interchange. And then I get at an get off at an off-ramp, make a left turn, and then another left turn, and get on to the on-ramp and do a exit on-ramp U-turn where it's safe with stoplights so that there's no cross traffic. This is just, you can't do this.
Ends up being arrested in the state of
Yeah,
California.
if I was the federal government, I would just totally cut off all their funds until they cut this shit out. Like, unless you're going to cooperate and work with the federal government to enforce immigration, you're not getting any money from the federal government. That's it.
Sometimes I think that when California talks about, you need us, we have the biggest economy and this and that. Oh, if we secede, you guys are screwed. It's like, okay, if you secede, I might eat with popcorn and smile and watch as this country invades California. Because when it comes to regulating vehicles in California, they suck at it. It is arbitrarian and detrimental to just people's quality of life, the way they do things over there. It makes no sense.
And if you have a problem with that, well, then just send the military over there.
That would be hilarious, honestly. I mean, California is perpetually on fire anyways. Did kids die in this? Do I even want to know? 30-year-old Florida City man, 37-year-old Pompano Beach woman, 54-year-old Miami man. Still. I think I probably would have lost my mind on camera if this guy had killed kids, man. I think I would have absolutely lost my mind. And the problem is that this also gives fuel for people who are super hyper-focused on the symptoms of this issue. They will not look for a reasonable solution to this problem. They will use it as fuel to justify if they ever come into power or as they're campaigning and protesting out on the streets, their policy will be scorched earth.
They fail at papers, please. Yeah, exactly. Criminal.
I forgot about that game.
This trucker takes an illegal left turn on the highway, blocking.
That looks like a Freightliner. One of the easiest trucks to drive on planet Earth. You have really good visibility in trucks nowadays. Unless if you're right on the bumper of a trailer, you're checking your mirrors. You're not invisible to the driver. Did he even check his mirrors before doing this crap? Or did he just do the Family Guy thing and go, I'm going left now, good luck everybody else?
Legal
Wow.
right to be in the country. California still issued him a commercial driver's license operating a 40-ton 18-wheel truck.
California will do that, but they won't let you drive your 40-year-old classic muscle car because that's abhorrent and bad for the environment. But they'll do this. They'll do this stuff. This is totally acceptable to them. The federal DOT, I think, they were already planning on potentially taking over the California DOT and the DMV because they weren't cooperating when it came to federal emissions laws. But this is the last straw, I think, from what I've seen. And I think the federal government is usurping California when it comes to how they handle vehicle regulations, which no one in their right mind should be against. Because California is the gold standard of arbitrarian overreach regulation when it comes to what and how people drive. I'll have to watch this video from TK's Garage about it. I think it's in my watch later. I mean, if that's true, if the federal DOT just says, California, you're not allowed to make decisions for yourself anymore, few people would complain. Life would be more pleasant over there all of a sudden.
You should be coming down with the full force of the federal government to absolutely crucify anybody and everything inside of the system that created this outcome.
I can agree with that.
I mean, what, arrest Newsom? Yeah, maybe. Sure.
That would be hilarious. Oh man, people would be dancing in the street.
At what point is this not treason? Because there's got to be a point, right?
It's also blatantly, and this is like an international issue of governments never prioritize its own citizens for some reason. They're very concerned about the rest of the world, but not its own citizens.
Places like super left Reddit is having discussions about this, attempting to be objective with it.
Yeah, that's a trap. But here's the thing. If you go on to Reddit you're going to start having conversations about people from home countries like his or adjacent or whatever, and they're going to start saying, like, he wears flip-flops, or he washes his feet in the sink, or he has a hole carved out in the floor of his truck, and he uses that to go to the bathroom while the truck's still going down the road, and all kinds of stuff. And it's just not relevant. Most of r/truckers is super distracted by the identity politics. They're not immune to that. They are super into making this a race thing. The US government is the blame for this. The people that are responsible for this is the driver, because he still made that decision, and it was a terrible decision. The company that hired him, and the person who passed him for the CDL written driving maneuvers and inspection test, and the school that apparently trained him. And then if you want, the people who gave him the permit to work in the country, if you want to go even that far. You got to get the whole thing, the whole chain. You can't just get the driver. Because if you're just getting the driver, you're not seeing the big picture.
Top comment from r/truckers being about someone experiencing the same exact thing in Texas.
Well, I'm a Texan. I'm not surprised. People also just kind of drive like lunatics in Texas anyways. Granted, that's also kind of just Houston in a nutshell.
And how they have 1% of the world's vehicles, but 10% of its deaths. Which seems like a mature, objective conversation that isn't common on Reddit, except when you consider how much of their interactions are actually bots, which that post looks 100% generated by AI.
What? Well, that's the only way that would ever be possible on Reddit, I suppose.
This proves absolutely nothing about foreign truckers as a whole, but why is it so difficult to have this discussion?
Nobody has a problem with somebody who's a foreign person that's a trucker here. We have a problem, and everybody has a problem when it's somebody who's here who's not supposed to be here, who can't speak English and didn't take the tests the right way that they should have, and they're driving around anyway. Like, there's a massive fucking difference between these two things.
Absolutely. Perfectly said. Probably even better than how I said it. That is a remarkable opinion for someone who is not in the industry. That is the correct opinion.
With the top reply to that being from someone sharing that same race, having...
I've actually seen this post. I saw this post, and I saw the second comment where it was basically from someone of similar origin going, I'm sick of this too, especially because it gives people like me or people who look like me such a bad rap. That's a perspective a lot of people don't consider, because obviously they're not all bad. But when an issue gets unaddressed and ignored and silenced for so long, people get angrier and angrier and angrier for being ignored, and they stop caring about being reasonable. And it gives the more racist people a lot of extra fuel, when after years of being ignored, they can use stuff like this as an excuse to just basically be unapologetic about the things they really want to say. And that's not good. It's not good. I don't know if this is going to be the tipping point that actually leads to things getting fixed. It's either that or things are going to get even worse.
And that's the issue, right? Is that the ultimate result and the end outcome of these policies is that it makes people more racist. That's what's happening.
I'm starting to wonder if maybe it's deliberate, like that they want people to feel this way so that they can do something and be supported when they finally do it.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who criticizes this and they say, well, the guy can't speak English, there's like a, kind of like this like implication that it's racist to bring up this point.
Yes, I've seen that too. And the fact is that the English proficiency has been a requirement for a very long time. I was taught that when I went to CDL school. I had to do the verbal part of the inspections test and all that stuff. And furthermore, I am uniquely equipped to have a pretty cultured perspective on this issue when it comes to being in the jurisdiction of other countries. Is because I have lived in other countries. I was born in Houston, right? I moved all over the place in the U.S., and then I lived in South Africa. I lived in England. I lived in Singapore. I lived in the Netherlands. And I've visited other countries as well. And, several things happen before and after, you transition from one place to another. But one of the first things that happens as you're getting ready to go to another country is you inevitably get briefed on what some of the customs are of that country and some of their rules. Like, so for instance, with Singapore, I was told you can have gum in Singapore, but you can't buy or sell it there. You also cannot smoke in most public places, or you will get fined a lot. And the rules when it comes to controlled substances are really strict. You break them, you could get caned. So with all of that in mind, once I know all those rules and then I go to Singapore, I am not a victim if I break those rules and then get punished for it. It is not unreasonable to be held to the customs and standards of whatever country I'm in. If you don't like those customs and standards, you don't go there. Because I know a lot of people are going to say, in Europe, you don't need to be able to speak English to drive a truck through Europe. Maybe so. This isn't Europe. You have to follow the rules of where you're at. That's kind of it. No ifs, ands, or buts. You can't be an American and then go to Italy and think you're allowed to film the police when you're being pulled over. Just because you have the freedom to do that in the US doesn't mean you can do that somewhere else. It's a really easy concept to grasp. And I think that's what frustrates people, because if you follow that logic, it can be inconvenient for the argument someone else is trying to make. Because English proficiency in the US just makes a lot of sense, because it allows you to, sure, read road signs. That's an obvious one. But also read documents when it comes to deliveries or regulations, communicating with authorities, communicating with customers and other drivers. You will assimilate a lot more easily. And we're talking about commercial drivers, not regular four-wheelers or passenger car drivers. We're talking about commercial drivers. Like I've said in the video already, commercial drivers must be held to the highest standard. You need to be able to assimilate into this industry in this country with little to no resistance. You need to just be able to do it. People should not have to use Google Translate to talk to you and explain to you the basics of our traffic laws. You'd think that's common sense. Yeah, that's not a bridge a truck should be on, just from looking at that. The other thing is that it's actually quite easy to prevent stuff like this by just, for one, don't use Google Maps or Apple Maps when driving a truck. Use either your FMCSA, restriction filtered physical atlas, or use a truck driving GPS like a Rand McNally or something. I think Garmin makes it too. It is so easy to avoid stuff like this. I don't understand how people still do this in 2025 or 2024.
It's a pattern. Patterns don't lie. Yeah, but of course it's going to be a pattern because you have a lot of false positives of people that shouldn't be there. But the reality...
That's well said. That's a really good response.
The problem is not with where a person comes from. It's whether a person is qualified to do what they're doing.
Exactly. End of discussion, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, okay. Well, like Indians are the problem. Well, what about a Brazilian? What about a Guatemalan that comes here? What about somebody from Africa? Like the same problem still.
I trained a truck driver one time. Used lightly. He had been driving for decades. He was from Mexico, full citizen, and the whole 9 yards. Easiest driver I've ever trained. He could back a trailer a lot faster than me and a lot more precisely, and he was a safe driver. He didn't tailgate people. He was a professional. So obviously country of origin doesn't really have anything to do with it. The only downside is I recently found out that in June there was a sexual assault charge out for him, like a warrant, and he got caught at the Texas-Mexico border. That part's not so good. It makes me feel kind of gross having known him, but oh well. But he was a great driver, but apparently not a great dude.
That any sort of reasonable discourse, like what I'm saying now, people call me a racist on the internet constantly. I get called a racist constantly when anybody who watches my stream knows that the majority of right-wing people in my chat, or like at least, super right-wing people in my chat, they get mad at me because I don't indulge in any sort of like racist narratives at all. I never do. And I think that's what's really ironic about it. But the problem is that
I just saw someone in his chat say, least racist person in the world.
Neither of those drivers speak a lick of English. I go to the warehouse here and ask, where do you check in at? They don't understand either. It's a real life example of it. I deal with this almost every single day.
I've run into that too. I'll be at a customer doing my unloading, and someone will come in and go, like, hold out a piece of paper, and I go, are you here to make a delivery? And they'll just say the name of the customer, and that'll be the only thing they can properly say. And I'll be like, delivery? Like, load? Hello? I don't know how. I don't know how you can survive in this industry when you can't speak the language most of the people in it speak.
So Trump decided to address this.
Directing the Department of Transportation to include English literacy tests for our truckers.
Yeah.
This is a big problem in the truck.
Well, that happened a while ago. That's not in response to this specific incident. And even like some states have started having people do a proficiency test at weigh stations and inspection stations. And if you fail, they put you out of service, and then you can't legally drive a semi-truck anymore. And I'll be honest, had you done your training, you would know that that was one of the rules. So I don't feel bad for you. And if you're ignorant of the rules, I still don't feel bad for you.
Yeah, so they're making people speak English now. He's like, yeah, so that's, yeah, obviously, right? Because, you...
What's crazy, that's always been the rule. That's the crazy part. That's always been the rule.
And how did it get so bad that people that don't even know how to read street signs are allowed to get behind the wheel of these humongous vehicles?
There's two reasons why. Number one is malicious negligence. People just simply don't care, and they don't care about their job, and they just let whatever they want go through. And
that's the crazy part to me, is that I got hit with a hammer. I got hammered into the ground by the Illinois state government, and it was like an accident. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't negligence. I literally had a medical emergency, and they treated me like I needed to be on the FBI's most wanted list.
When you are ignoring things that are safety concerns because you're worried about your job, I understand why you're doing it, but that's absolutely malicious. That's crazy. That's like...
I, for the most part, hate the way safety departments are run in most companies. For whatever reason, safety departments feel the need to do stuff so that they can be seen doing stuff, but it never helps, and it just overcomplicates things. Safety departments don't seem to really make things safer for some reason. They think they're being proactive, but they just make things more awkward. But then on the other side, I don't know why that's relevant. Again, ADD, him saying that just kind of made me think of it. But then when you have the DOT, FMCSA, and NHTSA, most of these regulations are in place in response to previous problems, to solve previous problems. So I'm just very curious to see if new regulations are born from this, or if things haven't gone far enough yet.
Saying that it's not malicious by speeding really fast, driving 150 miles an hour because you want to go home really soon. Yeah, I understand why you're doing it, but it doesn't make it okay. It's absolutely malicious. Plenty of people do malicious things that are understanding why a person does something doesn't mean that it's okay for them to do it.
I will also say, the only time I can permit someone to be like, you know what, go speed, I'm not going to tell anybody, is if you're in a sports car and you're not putting other people at risk. You're on a commercial street away from everybody, or you're on a country road and no one else is there, or you're on that road that goes through the Valley of Fire in Nevada or something like that. You can't hit anything. That's the only time I'm ever really okay with that.
With the Department of Homeland Security actually putting California Governor Newsom solely to blame. And since that post, what has Newsom done? Complained about Donald Trump, then complained about Donald Trump again, and then replying to a post comparing him to the future likely Republican candidate for president.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. What a child.
Which
JD Vance. Oh, wow. Look how good I looked in high school. Look at that. Oh, man. Yeah, for sure, man.
Oh, man. Wait, so what does he actually say? Gavin Newsom's dad was the personal attorney for the billionaire Getty family. They gave young Gavin money to start a winery in Napa. Sounds like a man of the people. JD Vance grew up in a broken, drug-addicted home in the Rust Belt. He joined the Marines to pay for college. The fact that Gavin Newsom is deluded enough to think he could win when he is so detached from reality is remarkable.
just highlight
And I'm not even like the most political person. I do not like Gavin Newsom. All the stuff his state does affects the rest of the country, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
California is issuing death machines to people that can't even read street signs, and their governor seems more focused on reminiscing on his rich boy roots and designer scarves than actually addressing it. As we
Sounds like a classic case of peaking in high school.
Here, I'll link you guys the video. Give it a like. And I totally agree with this. Definitely.
I should also, because that was also a good video. This is like levels of levels of reacting here, but let me here. I don't want to ruin your watch time stats, so I'll make sure to watch another one of your videos. 956,000 subscribers. You're almost at a milli, bro. Get there. I'm still under 100K, but get there, man. You have a good sounding voice too. So, yeah, very, very, very well. It's a complex issue to talk about because you have to kind of walk on eggshells and make sure you're careful with the language that you use, so that people understand you're not using this tragedy as an excuse to turn this into a race thing. But it needs to be talked about because it is a safety issue. This affects normal people. This affects everybody. You can be minding your own business. You're not doing anything wrong. You could be the most defensive driver on the planet. It takes one person to overrule all of that and kill you in an instant. And that is not okay. It legitimately sickens me with the effort and care I put into my abilities as a driver. The fact that there are people out there who put so little care into their driving and how good they are at it and how careful they are, it infuriates me. Pretty much as drunk drivers infuriate me. So, thank you, Asmon, for covering this. I hope that more and more people cover this. I'm going to follow the situation as it progresses. I'm recording this on Thursday, August 21st, so I might be a little behind when this video comes out. But if more stuff happens, I'll cover it. Because, screw it, I'm getting my voice and name put in the hat of this discussion because it is just that important to me, even though it will probably open me up to some criticism. I don't care. Anyways, thank you all for watching. You don't need to subscribe or anything like that or like the video. Just be safe. Be careful. And call people out where you can in the safest manner possible. And if you can't call them out directly, just report them. And if you have to, don't use the police, use the DOT. Call the DOT. I'll put their phone number for the hotline in the description so that you can give them DOT numbers, license plates, company names, and they can be investigated. And if you can document what you're seeing, if it's dangerous, even better. Get these people off the road. While the government figures out how to regulate this problem out of existence, if you can do anything to help, please do. Because it could make a huge difference to whether you or someone else lives to see the end of the day. As someone who has nearly lost his life in various different situations, the most recent one being a truck driving accident, you don't know you could die until you nearly die. And you only get to reflect on it if you're lucky. So that's why I'm talking about it.